Hello ink lovers and welcome back to my studio. In today's video, we'll be going over the results for my Inktober Afropunk collection, and by the end we'll decide whether or not I nailed it or failed it. Now, if you've watched my previous Inktober videos, you'll definitely recognize these first few pieces. I thought it would be nice to just recap all of the ones that I completed for this month's challenge. As it happens, I fell behind way earlier than I expected, but I'm really happy with the results that I came up with. As you can also hear, they started doing wonderful construction literally right in front of my apartment for hours on end each day this month. So editing video has been interesting, and I overall just decided to wait till the end of the month to give you guys a full wrap-up of these pieces. So if you're coming to this collection for the first time, let me kind of explain to you what I did here. Using African patterns and fabrics as inspiration, I designed 4 of my own and then used my patterns for inspiration for these portraits. In keeping with the overall purpose of Inktober, I wanted to practice different inking techniques each week. So for this first week, I kind of stuck to what I knew, and that's creating depth and value with ink washes. I'll be honest and say that I kind of wish I allowed myself to be a little bit more dramatic with the shadows, but I think these turned out great overall, and I was really excited to start working with a new inking technique for the next week, which was using the line weight to create texture. I obviously use this technique most effectively with the hair and creating just really striking shapes. So for areas like the hair, I kept it really organic by using a brush pen, and then for the face and like shoulders or body, I used the 05 Micron pen and just built up the line weight in certain areas. And I think the varying line weight actually gives these portraits a lot more movement than in the first week. Now, if you're following me over on Instagram, you may have noticed that at this point, I kind of gave up on the whole post every day aspect of the challenge and decided that I had kind of earned a break. I think I realized that I was making myself a bit overtired and just overstressed. So I want to say I took like a whole weekend off to allow myself to recuperate, but learning nothing, I immediately tried to do like 2 a day for the next week just so I could try to catch up. So there are definitely some of these where I can visibly see my lack of energy, and others where you can kind of tell that I just chugged a Red Bull. I want to say somewhere in the comment section of my first Inktober video this year, somebody asked, "Is it that serious?" And my response was something along the lines of, "No, it's not that big of a deal, and like I really don't think you should let yourself get stressed out." And I totally don't listen to my own advice. So do what I say, not what I do. Try not to let challenges like this stress you out. And if they are stressing you out, let yourself like legitimately take a break, and don't do what I did where I took a break and then felt guilty about it, so then I pushed myself even harder. Don't do that. Don't be me. So to bring you kind of up to speed to where I am at this point, I'm about to have 2 weeks of Inktober completed, but I'm a week behind. And although I was kind of stressed about that, I was really excited to do this piece because it was one of the pre-planned ones that I kind of already had. I knew exactly how I wanted to execute it. And this stippling effect that I did for kind of the faded area of her hair was just really satisfying. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to do a whole week's worth of stippling just because it took forever. But like I said, I was really happy with the way that the stippling combination with the brush pen for the dreads and the different line weight for kind of her face and her eyes, it all blended together really well, and I was just really satisfied with this one in particular. It's one of my favorites. I will say the one thing that I was a little bit nervous about for this one was using the silver metallic watercolor. I wasn't sure how easily it would show up in video or in pictures. I think it does fine, it does all right, but because it's so reflective, it looks like completely white in some angles. So I was like, I'm gonna put this practically white color on white paper and it's gonna look like I've done nothing. And I was a little worried that it was kind of a waste of time, but I like how subtle it is. Like, you can still definitely see it, but that reflection up against the white paper is actually really bright, and it has just like this really subtle punch to it when you move it around. For this next set of pieces, I wanted to focus on hatching and again creating shadow and depth using a hatching technique. So it gave me an opportunity to do some really like fine strokes. I love the way this one turned out, mostly because I love the shine that I was able to create with the hatching in her hair. But as far as the shading on her face went, I wish I pushed it a little further. I'm not as in love with this next one as much, because although the hatching creates a really great texture in her hair and I give it a lot of depth in the shadows, I don't know, it still feels like there's something missing in this piece that I can't quite put my finger on. In fact, I'd love to get y'all's thoughts on this one. Do you think that there's something more that I should add or something that I should take away? Let me know in the comments below. I can't help but feel like this piece might benefit from an ink wash, but I honestly don't know if it needs to be on her skin or in her hair or what. Another thing that I did with this piece, a little bit anyway, was in the like puff balls at the end of her banded hair. I used a little bit of a scribble technique, and that's another inking technique that you can use to create values and shadows. Since I had kind of realized that at this point I probably wasn't going to get all 31 paintings done, I wanted to at least try a little bit of it, and I think that I'm going to continue to explore the whole scribble shading and values technique on a separate collection or just a separate piece, because I like the way it turned out, and I wish that I kind of had more time to play around with it. And I know I can always just keep doing more of these Inktober pieces, and I don't necessarily have to stop because October is over, but also I'm kind of tired. And I could tell, I think maybe at this point too, that I had reached kind of the end of the challenge for myself. And by that I just mean, like, I feel like maybe my heart's not in it anymore. So I know that forcing myself to complete the challenge isn't going to result in anything that I'm particularly proud of, so I don't want to waste the energy. And I mean, for instance, in this piece, I like the way that it turned out, and again, the hatching really created a beautiful texture in her hair, and the composition even works really nicely, but for whatever reason I'm not really excited by this piece at all. So I think that is the point at which it's time for me to stop. So that makes this the last piece for this collection, at least for now. Like I said, I'll probably continue experimenting with inking styles furthering this collection or just in other pieces. But for now, I'd really love to know what you guys think, in particular of these last two pieces and with the collection as a whole. Do you think I nailed it or failed it? Personally, I don't think I failed because I didn't finish. I wouldn't say I nailed it, but I don't hate any of them, so I suppose that's a win. But regardless, leave your comments below and let me know what you think or if you have any favorites. If you'd like to get more of this content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell for notifications. As always, I love y'all so much for watching. I hope you all had a great Inktober, and I'll see you all real soon in the next video. Bye!